Welcome to the Daily HiFi Podcast. My name is Chana. With me today, we've got Mr. Joe and Tell.
That's
We do
me.
this every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. What's going on, Joe?
What's going on, man?
Look at that.
Just chilling like
Chilling
always.
like a villain.
You know what I mean?
Whoop. Nah, I mean,
like I don't payment. Forget payment. Just give me a mug.
just give him some swag.
That's it.
I gotta. My camera's not charging. Hold on 1 second.
All right. What's up to the folks in the chat? Hello, Tim Perry. How's it going? We miss you. Angela, where are you? There you are. There you
Look
are.
at that little hand.
You got pink chalk on your hands, Angela.
You got pink hands. Victor Boyd, what's going on?
What's up, Van Gool? What's going on? CSO, what's up?
I maybe it's so-so. How about so-so? I like so-so.
So. Michael Squires, how's it going?
Andy V in the place to be. That's right. Wow.
What's up?
Oh yes.
What's new? You know how we always started? I ask you what's new. You tell me about who. I'm scared. I'm always like a little bit afraid to ask you that question because I never know what you're gonna say,
dude.
Oh,
Dude,
no.
I went to my first hockey game on Sunday. Oh my gosh. Because you know what happened? Randomly walking around. I got this close to the ice, bro. I'm down on the thing. And like it was crazy. Crazy story. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that was cool. That was at Crypto Arena, Staples Center, whatever you want to call it. Perlisons speakers, R5Ts. I opened those up today. Okay, so quick question.
Okay.
Well, that's the chat and whoever is watching it on the replay. Do we still need to do unboxings of speakers? Because I was like, I don't have time to do that nonsense and film and get the right lighting and blah 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 and yada yada. I gotta put the feet on there. Heavy. Things are heavy, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, what's up? I would say not really, unless there's something special about it. You know,
okay.
Sometimes there's something you know, like if it's packaged really, really well, sometimes I'll show it just to show, like, hey, look it. Because another time, sometimes I do it because if it's packaged poorly, you know, if they use that hard styrofoam that breaks.
Oh yeah.
Right. So usually Perlison stuff, monolith, they use that soft foam and then they have the bag. Right. It's kind of like a nice experience, right?
Yeah.
But I do it because if there's something wrong and that thing is like smashed in from, you know, shipping,
Whatever.
I want to have it on video and it wasn't me. I opened it up that way. All right.
You're like Shaggy. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. I didn't poke out the tweeter. I didn't
just poke it out. Poke it, Pokemon.
You know, so that's why I do it. Whether I include it in the video, I try to keep the videos as short as possible, because if it were up to me, I would just keep going on and on and on and about everything going this direction, coming back.
You don't do the leaderboard anymore, do you?
I need to actually go back and redo it. Somebody told me that the links aren't working.
Oh wow! But when was the last time you added something to the leaderboard? The speaker leaderboard.
Not that long ago, but I need to go back to it. It just got like a little too messy. You know what I mean? Like some of those speakers I've reviewed a long time ago, so I'm supposed to compare a speaker I did now to one that I did 5 years ago. Like I don't remember how much better is this than that one. I don't know. Like, but yeah, I'll go back to it just because people, I guess they find it as a good reference. But yeah, I need to go back and do the speaker leaderboard again. So anyway, what else? Didn't you say that you talked to some people about a Atmos mix? No, he said no. That didn't happen.
I released an Atmos mix, a preliminary Atmos mix to my patrons and of course the people in the after show chat here. If you're part of the, what do we call it? You're a member of the Daily HiFi YouTube channel. Yeah, the after show crew. So they got something I try to do something that's not out there. So I'm going to release some Atmos stuff that's going to be on Apple Music, so everybody can just listen to it, right? Sure, I could have put it on a disc and sold it and made money, but this is not going to make any money. So this is strictly for the home theater enthusiasts, because everything on Apple Music and Tidal and all that Atmos wise, they're geared toward headphones. This is geared to break your home theater. That's what I'm talking about, people. Bass sweeps going down to 14 hertz. We got shit flying everywhere. You're gonna be like, Chana, what is this? I'm gonna be like, this is what creativity is. This is what you can do with Dolby Atmos. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm here to do. Show everybody else this is what you can do. Let's stop pussyfooting around and just being like, oh, we're gonna stay true to the stereo. Fuck that. Fuck that. We're going balls to the wall. We are going full speed. We're hammed out. Ham out. I don't know. I don't know what the saying is. We're going ham. So if you're a patron of mine at the $5 level, patreon.com/technodad. That post is already there with the link. Like I said, I'm like 30% through with the Atmos track. Still have some stuff to do, but it's like, it's pretty hardcore. And it's not like musically, it's a bit different, right? It's 6/8 timing, which is kind of not like the regular 4/4. So like, we're going into a lot of what they call avant-garde territory. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay,
making this shit different enough that nobody else too can copy that shit, because they're just gonna be like, this is too complicated copy. Yeah, so I'm excited because it's gonna be pretty awesome. And I got a whole bunch of people that I gotta send it to. I'm gonna send it to my boy Rock. He's been doing a lot of immersive stuff. He was just at Sony Pictures on their soundstage doing some Atmos stuff for those guys. So he's getting into film as well. He just I saw his Instagram story. Our buddy Charles Sprinkles over at his house.
Oh, what?
11 channel Cali Audio SM5s at Rock's place, and
wow.
Charles Sprinkles himself was calibrating it.
Okay.
He was doing the moving mic method over there. Oh, great.
That's funny. That's awesome.
It's funny, like Rock's, he's like, dude, those are my guys. And I was having dinner with my girl on a Saturday night. Apparently he hit me up, and I usually like put my phone on silent when I'm with her. And I found out that they were all having dinner right over here. And when he got there with the Cali guys, like the owner and Charles, and some of the guys from Sony's 3, they're doing the Sony Reality 360. They're like, yo, Techno Dad's office is like right around here. And like the owner of Cali's like, call him, have him come down.
Yeah, were you able to meet up with them, or you're too busy?
Oh, no,
you missed it.
Yeah,
you said
I
you
missed it.
Right?
I missed it. And Rock's like, he's either DJing somewhere or with the girl. Yeah. He was right. So yeah, cool stuff, man. A lot of cool stuff. I got the per listen subs in here, dual 10s. I told Joey, like, he's like, are they like right next to each other? Pretty much. There's like the 2 10s and then this tower right in between. So it looks like 2 balls and a dick. Hilarious. Oh, hey, man.
So when are we gonna make something new together? I was thinking about it because I made an Upmixer. I kind of showed you before, like the Upmixer that I made here for the studio. But I wanted to make something so that, I have 7.1.4 in here, but most of the stuff I'm playing is like YouTube, normal music. And when it's going through this audio interface that I have here, I'm just using 1, 2 speakers and a sub, even though I have all these other speakers wired up. So I wanted to make my own Upmixer, and so I kind of recreated kind of like an Oro 3D type of deal. And it works really well, but it got me thinking, what if we started using some of the tricks that I use? I have some new tricks. Ooh. New tricks. I haven't even showed you some new tricks so that it, stuff sounds really good when it pans, You know what I mean? That's kind of a problem that you have with Atmos that seems like shouldn't be an issue, right? When something pans from left to right, goes through the center, it's good, but it could be better, right? And so I have some tricks that I use here for upmixing, and I'm like, what if we just build that right into the Atmos mix? You know, like so to resolve some of the issues that happen. You know, well, we'll talk in private about that, but I'm just kind of curious what people would want. You know, I know they like the stuff that you're making, but maybe we need to update, like do like an add-on for the toolkit one day. That would be cool, right?
Toolkit Volume 2. Toolkit,
Yeah.
or like, dude, take the Apple approach. Toolkit Pro. Stack Pro.
Just like a little add-on. Like it's not going to replace anything that we've already done, but just some extra stuff. And another reason why I'm thinking about it is, you guys know I'm entering a car audio sound quality competition later in April, and I actually use the toolkit in my tune, right? So in car audio, the most important thing is that you have a good center image, right? So there's some tests for that, but also in addition to the center image, you want stuff to image like in between where center is and the left, like that should image properly. There's not very many tests for that, you know, but our toolkit does. You know, I can use the speaker pairs and see there's something image right here between the left and right. This image between the right and center, right? So I can use those, and I'm like, that's actually pretty useful. And I talked to our dude. Remember the guy we met at NAM?
Which one?
One we met at lunch, and he's just started talking to like all super technical right away.
What's his name again?
Justin.
I know his face. Face.
And so I talked to him, asking him, you know, some tips and tricks for car audio stuff. And he's like, you know, you have a huge advantage, right? I'm like, why? He's like, I mean, just the fact that, you know, you do DSP stuff on a regular basis for home theater stuff. And also he's like, people don't just make test tones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can just make the test tone you need to be able to test something to see if it's working well. I'm like, I guess that's true. Yeah. Most people don't make their own test tones.
I mean, a lot of people don't have, like, MW's got a great question here. What software do you use to make your Atmos tracks? I use Logic Pro. I've been using it for a long time. I don't know Pro Tools, but if I want to try like DTSX or what is it called? What's the other one? Oh, Oro 3D.
Oh, what's that?
I'd have to get into Pro Tools. So I don't have Pro Tools yet, but I did pick up the DTSX Creator Suite, which was like $2,500, man. Oh, shit hurt. And I think Pro Tools another like $2,000-$3,000 to get the perpetual license, so I don't have to keep paying, like, because they have, like, you know, subscription plans, but who wants that, right? Who wants that? One of the things I just answered a comment, actually, Joe. Somebody's like, what can we do with your I have a 7.1.4, I think he had a Denon or something like that, and he's like, you know, what can I do with this toolkit that I can't already do? And, you know, I have pink noise already in the AVR. Why is this better? So, like, I was just kind of like casually in bed today because I was at home waiting for my food delivery, and then I needed to unbox those per listen. So I was just hanging out at home for like the first half of the day. And I got back to him and I was just like, well, you know, pink noise, blah, blah, blah. And then you can pick like the proper crossover, and then you can actually adjust the timing by finding out where the center is in the tones per, you know, speakers. And then, then you can go into the speaker pairs. I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, man, we can do a lot of stuff with this thing.
A lot.
So I know there was a couple of people that were wanting to, or they missed the sale. So if you want to follow our Spatial Group Instagram account, you can find out when the next sales are happening and the next promotion. So I'll drop that into the chat there. and I believe there it is right there, Instagram.com/spatial group if you're using a web browser, or go to Instagram and type in @spatial group and find out when our new promotions, or our next promotions are happening. You know, if you are thinking about
on Magic Beans too. I'll do
what's
something
that?
for
On
Magic.
Magic.
Yeah. Because a lot of times people want to get a deal on, Spatial Toolkit. So I figure, you know what, just buy it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think the fact that we coordinate that, I think people get confused. They're like, oh yeah, Chana when he made Magic Beans, like, a lot of times they get confused as to.
Oh yeah, they think I made it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make that. I know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to use it.
Yeah. So to be clear, it was myself, developer, who created Magic Beans. Chana and I created the spatial audio calibration toolkit. So just to be clear.
Yeah, I think other than you and maybe a couple others in the Discord, I probably made the most amount of videos about Magic Beans. And I've done it on a Denon 3800, Marantz 7706. About to do it on this Marantz AV10. Wait, I already did it on the Marantz AV10. Mm-hmm. The Yamaha A8A. I still got to do it on a Sony, and I think I have like 2 more Denons, the 6700H. I've done a lot of stuff.
It's greatly appreciated because it's kind of weird. Of course, I'm supposed to shill my own product, right? It's my job to sell my product, but at the same time, it's kind of like I'm so extremely biased. Like, yeah, I do think it really works well. I wouldn't have spent 2 years working on something that I think didn't do anything or worked poorly. So, it's easier if somebody else does it. And also you review a lot of like different AVRs and stuff like that.
Yeah. You don't call me Mr. AVR. I mean, there's still, I think I still have like 6 or 7 here and at the house and stuff like that. I'm trying to offload some, like, but half of me is like, man, maybe I should keep this Yamaha. I'm like, no, I want to get rid of this silly Yamaha. Like, goddamn. The Onkyo TX RZ30 is not bad for if you're just going to be 9-channel, leave it alone at 514 being your max setup. It's got pre-outs for 914. If that's what you like, just keep it there. It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. Dirac Live is great. So Dirac Live, for that, you can select, you have to turn it on per input, and it's off slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. So I have Dirac Live on slot 1, and then I have Dirac Live with the Magic Beans target curve on slot 2. So I can actually go back and forth. Done that a few times, and wow, I mean, Magic Beans just like kind of just takes the sound and just tightens it up. We're now like a cohesive whole kind of thing. It's a whole, meaning a whole thing, not like a hole in the middle. It's great. And I even got some comments about the post calibration base alignment.
Oh yeah, the post EQ sub alignment. Yeah, you're the first one to make a video about that. I should have made a video about it. Again, I have a lot of different things that I need to review. Product stuff. But yeah, I'm glad you did that because a lot of people have questions about how to do it, and they're like, "Oh man, this was really easy to follow. You just align the main speaker."
Like I've never used it. I had the older version, and you're like, no, just download the new version. And I was just like, oh man, it makes so much more sense. Like, turn up the volume here, then turn down the bass volume, and it lights up. Some of them though, like one, I was just like, I was going down by like 0.5 dB, and it just took so long for me to get to the right one.
The bass here.
Like,
let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try this.
Yeah. Mike Squire says that's how we did it on the RZ50. Yes, and Tim says it Magic Beans adds that cohesion. So after that Onkyo video, a lot of people in the Onkyo
ABS.
Facebook group. I'm like, in the Facebook group, someone was like, I'm looking at this Magic Beans thing. I think it's kind of cool. Looking more into target curves, and why don't we just clip this? I'm gonna make a video about this today for my channel, because we're gonna go over. I'm gonna do Magic Beans in here and compare that target curve that Magic Beans gives me for here in the studio on a 916 with different speakers, 2 new subs, and versus the living room or bedroom 5.1.4, just to show like, hey, look, this should be different, right? This is a totally different room. This room's treated. It's got 15 speakers, so the target curve should be different. And somebody said, somebody commented, I'm looking into this. It seems like a cool idea. And somebody else commented saying, hey, you just used the Harman target curve. It's free. And I don't know about you, Joe, but I usually, tend to think things that are free usually aren't the greatest. Right?
I don't even understand how free like can sustain. You can't sustain free for very long. You know what I mean? Like, if you wanted to give something away for free, I mean, I don't know. You can't support that, right? So anyway, definitely we've talked about that a million times, how a single target curve is not correct. And in your room, I think one of the a lot of the comments were like, man, the bass rise is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. And it makes total sense because he's sitting right up against the wall where you get the most boundary gain. And if you notice, people are like, oh, dude, that looks dangerous. Like how much you're going to have to boost, right? The thing is, if you notice the response of his actual speakers without any EQ, they're already starting to boost up that way. Magic Beans is probably taking away some of it, right? It's just saying that this is what your room is doing. And, this is what your room wants to do, or based on where you're sitting. Right. And so, I thought that was interesting that a lot of the speakers you're measuring already had that bass rise because you're near a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so Miles says REW is free, and I don't know how that guy does it, because REW is awesome. So there's definitely use cases, not use cases, but there's definitely situations where somebody's able to provide something for free. I don't know. This guy must be a rich guy or something, because like, how do you keep? I don't know.
Like developing a product that everybody's using and it's just free. I mean, maybe it's just the other stuff, right? Like other stuff that he's got something else going on. Has to be.
I feel like if I could do something for free, right? If I had the time and all that, I would love to do free stuff. I mean, for a long time, what we're doing here is kind of like we're not making money off Daily HiFi. Not a profitable thing. We have enough to sustain what we're doing, but it's more like, hey, I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy talking to you guys and talking about this sort of stuff. So it can work if it can sustain itself. I guess what I'm saying is, like, if it's a money pit, like for you to spend your time, money into something that's not making money is kind of rough, I guess you could say, unless you really enjoy it. Sometimes you just love something so much, you'll do it for free.
Yeah. So I think, and even when Rock was in here, before I had the 6 height channels, and before I had the front wide, so I had 714, he was saying that, when he's mixing stuff and he's looking at the way he has the object pan and move in the renderer, he's like, I just don't feel like it's actually happening that way when I listen to it. Right. And he says that he thinks that a large majority of the disconnect is, guess where? Speaker placement. I just started laughing. I mean, that's what I talk about all the time. Right. And so that's when I said, well, wouldn't you think it'd be correct to place the speakers where the Dolby Atmos renderer thinks the speakers are? He's like, yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, even though Atmos has been out since 2014 and Atmos music's been going on for now 4 years, with a big push from Apple, and Dolby's doing a lot with. I just saw the news. Dolby Atmos started getting into some Porsches, so that'll be interesting to see how they implement multiple speakers in those kinds of cars. Obviously, I think SUV would probably be better, but
Yeah.
whatever. My 911's got 11 speakers. Oh, we'll see.
Hey, I wanted to mention earlier, I forgot to mention this, that I just found out that you can play the digital version of the spatial audio calibration toolkit on a PC via HDMI.
Yeah.
So this is new to me, right? A lot of times I'm learning from these guys in Discord without using the Dolby Access app. So Dolby Access app usually is what's needed to, decode Atmos, right? So it sees that your AVR is capable of Atmos. And if something is in Atmos, then it'll say, all right, I'm going to use the Access app to send this. But somebody told me that you can use VLC player and just select it, and it'll actually send the correct test tones. So without downloading it, I mean, the Dolby Access app is free anyway, but I just thought that was interesting that you could use our toolkit on a PC, the digital version, and have it play test tones that way. So it's just another way if people are like, I don't have this, my Blu-ray player doesn't do it. I don't have a streaming device. If you have a PC with HDMI out, you'll be able to do something like that. So thought it was interesting. If your laptop or whatever it is has HDMI out. So man, I want to.
And then I think it's like the encoded output is what you select for VLC. I've seen it before. It's like audio, and it says HDMI encoded output. So
it's just hard to test every single thing. Like I use a Mac here, so I'd have to use my old Mac using Boot Camp to like simulate a PC. I guess it becomes a PC at that point. But yeah, it's tough to test every single thing. Man, can we make a SAC spatial toolkit for the car? That'd be pretty easy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Specific for it.
How would you play it in the car? I guess you can play it on the computer, right?
2-channel, so it's actually much easier.
Oh, it's only 2-channel?
So it's just a matter of doing some of the same test tone type stuff that we do.
But in different speakers?
Or not different speakers, but like I need imaging, like precise imaging in different locations, some of the speaker pair stuff, some of the
How would we do that? I know we actually probably need to create the exact same thing, maybe on a smaller scale. Oh, you know what it is? I talked to some people at NAMM. If we want to do a spatial audio calibration toolkit for music studios, we have to go up to 11.16. And so I was just at the mailroom, Universal Music Group's, UMG's multi-million-dollar studio. I was there a couple weeks ago. So I asked the PMC guy, Maurice, like, how do we do 11 speakers in here? He's like, well, we have it on array mode. I'm like, okay, so in the renderer, where can I place the sound so it's only coming out of that? Like, it's like a rear wide, right? There's like 2 rear wides. And he's like, we don't want you to think about it like that. I'm like, God damn it. I want to know. Like, this is, I get what you're saying, but I want to know where in the renderer is that speaker? And it's actually not there. There's no point. It is a mix of it is an array of the surround back. Is how they do the
so it's not an actual thing.
It's not an actual discrete location we can put in the renderer. Now, of course, I don't have a way of testing that. So I just gotta create a file and have one of my guys that just happens to be working in there be like, hey, play this and see if it just comes out of one speaker and tell me which speaker that is. Otherwise, there's no way to actually test what's going on. But for music industry people, 714, 914, 916. I guess we'd have to do 714, 716, 914, 916, and this 1116.
Okay,
that's what.
We made that studio quick check, so that's good enough for people who have 916.
They straight up want the full thing to like calibrate using the toolkit. I was like,
they want everything. They don't want to. They want just check.
Yeah. They don't want just the check. Okay. They want to like calibrate using our product.
So this is
which would mean we'd have to do a different format for them.
sometimes I feel bad a little bit for the people who are watching, because this is just kind of like our conversation that we'd normally have. Right?
Yeah.
You guys are just listening into a conversation that Shauna and I would normally have. But hopefully it's somewhat interesting, and I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say also. So just consider that you guys are part of the conversation too. You know, you guys are kind of quiet over there. You guys are kind of quiet, so we'll continue talking until you start asking questions and chiming in. If you just want us to talk, we can. Easy. What does the MW say? L Acoustics does 11.1.6 in their studio using a Trinov.
Yeah.
You know, so I wanted to go back real quick just to kind of nerd out about something I've been thinking about. Remember, I was talking about upmixing and how to make panning sound better.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about it, like when you upmix stereo to whatever it is. So first it was like you could upmix to Dolby Pro Logic, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about stereo is you have a center image. When you're listening to stereo, you have a center image from just two speakers. But now you have a center speaker, and so you need to put something into that speaker to, you know, make use of it. I mean, it can be useful. So if you're off to the side slightly, having a center image can anchor that to the actual location, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of, if you're listening to two speakers, sometimes the image just breaks and you lose a center image if you go too far off center. And so in Pro Logic, it was just something simple. They just took the sound from that was mono, right? Took the common sound, and whatever wasn't common to those, they kind of put it on the left and right. I mean, that's how a lot of it. I think that's how a lot of it works, right? Mm-hmm. It's what makes the most sense. But then there's different mixes of that. Like how much do you still keep on the left? How much do you kind of let bleed over? Things like that.
Right.
And so that's what I've been working on. But I'm wondering, is that really an issue now that you have a discrete center that you can put something in? I think that it is still an issue. I think there's something wrong that happens. Because you remember, like, when we went to NAMM and George Mossenberg was talking about that people don't like to put stuff in the center because of comb filtering, meaning, you know, if there's sound coming from the center and it's also maybe you start panning it to the left a little bit, now that same exact sound in Atmos, right? If I were to do that in Atmos, I just move it from the center to the, like, in between, it's going to play the same sound from both speakers at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But we know what the issue with that is like, if the speakers are close enough, there's going to be some frequencies where they start to, the sound starts to mess with each other. You know what I mean? And that's not just with the center. It's just the front stage is just where it's the most obvious, right? That also happens, you know, if you're left and surround, left speaker and surround speaker. Yeah, George Mossenberg.
Yeah, so just in case anybody doesn't know who we're talking about, George Mossenberg, he is a Grammy award-winning recording engineer and inventor, most notably his paper in 1972 regarding the parametric equalizer from, you know, he had a white paper that he submitted in 72 about that. So that's who we're talking about. We were talking to him.
Like one of the pioneers, just only one of the pioneers of, you know, parametric EQ. I think
I think it's important to show people, like, the people that we're talking to are not just rando people. Yes, we meet them randomly at these events, but they have a lot of background in studios and mixing and recording and audio in general. And when he said, "Oh, well, you don't want to put something in the center, you want to have a wide vocal," and I was like, no, I think what Joe's saying is, we want the vocal in all three speakers. Oh, you don't want to do that. He said, you got to watch out for the comb filtering.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, so you don't have to believe us. I get why somebody wouldn't want to listen to me. I'm just a dude, right? Why listen to this guy, right? But we get to talk to some of these guys who really do know some stuff, right?
A lot of stuff.
And I'm always striving to learn new stuff. And I would hope that for all of you guys too. You know, go in with an open mind, try to learn don't always be the guy who thinks you know the most. If somebody can teach us about the product that we made, you can learn about other things too, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can humble
Right.
yourself to be able to, like, people teach me about magic beans and like stuff that they're doing. I'm always open to new information, right? But when something's wrong, you can just say, hey, you know what, that's not correct, and you can go and fix it. But anyway, that's the side thing. The whole point that I'm making is that there are some comb filtering effects, and that's probably why a lot of music mixers just don't use the center
I
channel.
don't use it. Yeah.
They inherently don't like it because stereo kind of works, right? Just use the front two, center image will happen, you're good to go. And then they find that when you start using the center, it kind of like anchors almost too much, right? Like, like, have you ever noticed that? Like when you just put something in the center, it's almost like too anchored. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just seems like I don't want it that solid, you know? I don't want it anchored only to this one speaker, like dialogue in a movie. I want it to maybe be a little larger, right? But the moment you start doing that and expanding the sound in the Atmos render, now you start introducing comb filtering because the other speakers are playing the same exact sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have a solution to that.
Oh.
In addition to some other tricks that we already know. But
Nice.
I think that, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to bounce that off of you guys and, see what you guys think. For music, I think we can just use the center a little bit better. And a lot of it has to do with the stuff I'm doing car audio, because I do have a center channel in my car. And so how do I make that center not draw attention to itself? So I'm learning. A lot of times I'm kind of quiet on YouTube, not making a lot of stuff, but I'm constantly like learning new stuff. So hopefully I can come back, maybe in a few months and then have something to actually say,
Yeah. I think, man, I still think we're like still just scratching the surface. We're still in the like infancy stage of this spatial audio thing, right? We have the newest one. Who is that? Eclipse Audio.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to make that stuff.
I think that's channel based. I heard somewhere that it's channel based, but you know what? I do believe that we're kind of at the forefront of all this. The stuff that we're doing, experimenting, you making these like tracks that are specifically made to work out somebody's system and kind of pushing the boundaries. Me, what I'm doing with like just random stuff in car audio and trying to pull that into a mix, right? I'll tell you the details a little bit later because I don't want to tell all our tricks. But I think if we start implementing some of these things into the mix, you might find like, man, these guys are doing something different with Atmos. It doesn't sound cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
It's, ideally, like more speakers is typically better if you know how to use all the speakers, right? If all the speakers are just causing comb filtering within each other, then yeah, that sucks. Of course,
like this is that new track I was telling you guys about. Like, look, there's just got a lot going on, and I'm packing that LFE as much as I can. You can see I'm writing out on the top here because I just, this is just my prelim mix, and when obviously I'm hitting way too high on this integrated level. This needs to be -18, and this true peak needs to be -1 for me to submit to Apple Music. So yeah, this is like, dude, frankly, I don't think there's anybody in the music industry or in the home theater industry that are doing what you and I are doing on the back end that people just don't see, right?
Yeah.
And I think the funniest thing is when I talk to these executives at, I've talked to plenty of executives at Dolby. The really, really cool, really nice people, and they say like, I tell them, I'm a co-creator of the world's first Dolby Atmos calibration disc. They're just like, wow, I think you know more about this than I do. I'm just like, whoa, that's actually really cool, and I think we're so desensitized, you and I, to this thing that we made. We don't even know, like the novelty, I guess, is gone. And I was just like, the coolness factor is gone. But every time like I need to use that thing, I'm like, man, this thing is so cool.
Yeah, well, I use it.
Yeah.
I do a ton of manual calibration now, right? And automatic calibration to see what the auto stuff is doing compared to what I would do manually. But I really do need to use the toolkit. Like I really do use it, right?
Yeah.
And if it weren't there, then what would I do? I would have to make something.
I think it's great that you and I use it for the shit that we just need to use it for, right? And then the fact that other people get value out of it too is just the bonus.
Yeah.
Michael, I totally agree.
That's a good thing. Making money from it is also a good thing.
Oh, for sure.
I don't mind. You know what I mean? I like that.
Yeah. Mike says, I would like to see an inline Dolby Atmos graphical display, meaning between the player and the AVR. That would be cool. I don't think that would be possible, Mike, because the player doesn't decode the Atmos, the AVR does. So that inline display would have to be coming from the AVR to the TV. If we just, you know what? You know, like the info button on these AVRs where they show like with the Denon and Marantz, it shows incoming signal, output speakers, you know, it has that little grid. Like, why don't they just, and then the second one is the video input. It's getting a 4K 24 BT 2020 input, and this is the output going to the display. The next, you press info one more time, boom, you get this renderer. Why not? Like what?
Well,
like why not?
Denon and Marantz, they always like make small iterations. Like the next one's gonna be the 6900H.
I mean, hey, I like the 69.
Right? Hey, be like, hey, brand new. We have the object viewer
renderer, right? You know, and I know I always give the people that have, I always give Trinov shit. I'm like, wow, $16,000, $20,000 for that, and the like renderer deal is like what, like out of Tron? It's like a wireframe from like the 80s. Like, come on, like.
Yeah.
And then I know Todd Anderson was like from AV Nirvana. He's like, well, that's just a side thing. That's not the reason why people get a Trinov. I'm like, okay, fair, but like, goddamn, that shit's expensive, man. That's let's make that shit better.
Yeah. Yo mama he's asking, is Magic Beans available online? Yes, magicbeansaudio.com. Yeah, man. We're gonna make some cool stuff. We'll talk afterwards. You know, I had a kind of switch gears real quick. Let's answer some questions. How about that? Because there's something that popped up. Which ones are relevant?
Let's go to the questions. What speakers do you use for mixing? Actually, you know, my buddy Rock is he's like, man, he always says you're doing something totally different. You're using hi-fi speakers to mix on. I'm using the Monolith Monoprice T6 towers as my front stage, T5 towers for front wides, side surrounds, and then the T5 encores. No, the different T5 towers for the surround backs. I'm using the speaker on a stick for my height channels, 6 of them, and then I was using the ELAC 10-inch subwoofer, but now ProListen sent me 2 10-inch subs, so I'm using those. I just recalibrated for the music production. I'm using Dirac Live in a 916 configuration, and I'm gonna do Dirac Live on the Marantz, and then add Magic Beans to that. But yeah, that's what I'm using here.
MW says, so your speakers are not identical?
I mean, no, they're pretty close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
I originally had all the little speakers. They just couldn't handle this space. The space is too big for the little speakers. And I needed something, because when you're using the audio interface, it's just sending a full range signal to that output. So I'm gonna blow whatever. So having these T6s, man, this one song, I made this AI song, this new stuff, that bass, like I'm like, are these subwoofers on? I walk up, touch the subwoofer, it's not moving. I'm like, damn, these T6s are fucking legit, man.
Yeah, man.
I almost wish I had 2 more.
Do I have two
Anyway,
more?
you have some. Doesn't matter.
I think I have two more.
Yeah,
Where are they?
I
They're in the
can't.
drawer.
I don't need. I don't
All
need.
right.
Anyway,
What else we got? We got let's answer some more of these starred comments.
renderer shows a little ball graphic appears to be going down to the floor level, but actual speakers are placed down there around the floor. Well, okay, so here, let me show you real quick. Since I have it pulled up here. God damn it. There's actually two views of this viewer. Let me jump forward in the track here. It's this view and it's this view, right? So we got this one where it looks like the floor, and then this one that's got the person in it. A lot of the pro mixers use this one because you can actually see there's more space here because they have like a real cluttered like renderer, you know what I mean? Where like there's all these balls and all these different areas. So they always use this. When you go to music studios, this is what you're going to see, you know, but here's more of what you're going to experience in like a home theater situation. So there's two views. It means the exact same thing. This might look like it's on the ground, but it's actually your ear level speakers. So, you know, do with that information what you want. Oh, right. So he sent me an email. The email I sent you about subwoofer gain and 10 dB hot over speakers. Can we talk about it? All right. So I put that into, it's a pretty long email here. I put it into this remove, stop screen sharing, present, share screen, window. Where is my Microsoft Word? Okay, here we go. Where is the zoom on this sucker?
Oh my goodness. That's the email you got?
Yeah, this is.
Okay.
I want to talk to you guys about something. I've heard from other people and even from you guys that the THX recommendation is to run LFE 10 dB hot. I follow this advice with my dual subwoofer setup. Each individually tuned about 5 dB hot, making them run roughly 10 dB hot, I guess, together, and I have zero complaints. The LFE sounds perfect. Even my wife, who's usually sensitive to excessive bass, hasn't had any issues. So I know it's not too much. I mentioned this on the Clips Facebook group, and some people jumped down my throat and called me an idiot and said that this is nonsense and dumb. I've tried to find something online to prove it with hard evidence, but I could only really come up with anything that backed up this 10 dB hot claim. Okay, so what is the 10 dB hot thing, Joe?
Okay, so basically they kind of leave a little bit of a headroom, I guess, in the track so that if you're going to mix something, you're supposed to actually reduce it by 10 dB on your end, which we didn't on the toolkit for various reasons. You know, we could have just made it 10 minus 10 dB so that when you calibrate everything to 75 or 85, and then when that tone comes out, you measure it at the same amount, right? And then what happens is when the sound goes to the LFE in your AVR or processor, it will increase that by 10 dB, so it'll compensate, right? So they're supposed to reduce it in the mix, and then the AVR adds it back in later, right? But I think what you're talking about, CSO, is this is whether it's supposed to be 10 dB hot or above or below has nothing to do with how you should set your subs, right? That's not what the way you should set your subs is based on whatever's correct for your room. So that's the reason why we have Magic Beans and why we have the post EQ sub alignment. It'll determine the target curve that you need. It could be that you need 5 dB. Your sub needs to be 5 dB hot. It could be you need 15. Maybe like Chana's, he's up against the wall. Maybe it's 20 dB, right? Is what sounds correct. And so none of the stuff that we're talking about, you know, is a good way to tell how you should set your subs, right? That's really not relevant whatsoever. What you need to do is figure out the target curve that you should have in your room. And let's just put it this way, if you didn't have any sub, if you had a huge tower speakers that could go down to 15 hertz, right? What is their target curve going to be, right? How would that sound in your room? And because you maybe don't have gigantic towers, you have to use a subwoofer what you want it to sound like is you want it to sound as if you did have huge towers, right? It should sound the same, right? So that's kind of the way to think about it. There shouldn't really be main speakers and sub. The sub is supplementing the sound so that your smaller speakers sound as if they're just one giant speaker. So yeah, what is Reverend Slim? I'm sure he has some good insight here. I see him chiming in anytime I see that guy right there. He says THX doesn't recommend that at all. The LFE channel gets a 10 dB boost in processing, so there's more headroom for LFE. That's what I said. You know, hopefully I'm saying it right. Reverend Slim is really into this stuff, so I'm just kind of repeating what I've heard here and what I've read. So it's basically, so reference is 105 dB peaks from channels and 115 dB from LFE. I mean, these are good. Those numbers are good kind of baseline numbers to check for, right? You want to make sure that if your system can play 115 dB peaks, right, then that's pretty good. You know, if it's not distorting at that level, then that's good, right? If your THX compact satellites, these little speakers, can't play, you know, to reference levels, well, maybe you're in a room that's too big for them. So it's a good hint as to, like, are those speakers, are the things that you have, your components, are they appropriate for that size room? It's a good guideline for that. But as far as using it for a target curve is not what I would use it for.
So LFE being 10 dB hot is a thing, even if most people don't know it or realize it. But also, when someone mentions the THX reference recommendation, they should clarify that one should only make it 10 dB hot if they use the same test tone with a third-party app. So with the AVR test tones, it should be matched and should not be set 10 dB higher.
Okay, he said keep reading. All right,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, I'm reading. Also, story time, ladies and gentlemen. Also,
Okay.
10 dB hot doesn't mean they should set the LFE level in the receiver to plus 10 dB. Actually, what I believe the best way of doing this is to set the LFE level to 0, then adjust the gain to be 10 dB hotter using REW. But I was told on AVS forum the best thing to do is set the LFE level to at least -5 and then set the gain to be at reference level. This will help with signal to noise ratio and will leave more headroom. To be honest, I still not entirely sure how this helps, but I guess the next time I calibrate my system, I'll redo this, do it this way. Just need to remember that -5 is my reference, not 0. By the way, my LFE never sounds off at lower volume or higher volume. Obviously, not all subwoofers and AVRs are the same, but my system works for me perfectly. I have watched dozens and dozens of movies since I calibrated my system, and not once had I touched the LFE level. Another thing I am unsure about, can't test it since I only have 2 subs. So until now, I recommended deducting 5 dB for each additional subwoofer when calibrating. So if you have 2 subs, each of them should be around 5 dB hotter. So together, more or less, they play 10 dB higher. Speakers calibrated at 75 dB and 2 subs calibrated at 80 individually. I figure this would mean that with 3 subs, I would need an additional 5 dB deduction, making each sub actually match 75 dB speaker level. And then with 4 subs, it would mean that each sub needs to be 5 dB below the speaker, which means 70 dB, and so on. ChatGPT says otherwise. First of all, it states that adding a second subwoofer will increase the overall level by 6 dB. Yes. Adding a third subwoofer will increase the overall level by 10 dB. Damn. And adding a fourth will increase the total output by 14 dB. 3 dB over the previous 11. But in order to keep these subs at a total of output of 85 dB, we would need to lower the gain on each sub by, and then he gives the levels.
Again, okay, so you read the whole thing pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Okay. These reference numbers, right? I'm going to state it again. Is not how you should be calibrating your system. They're just numbers that you're supposed to be able to hit in order for it to be, you know, THX certified, I guess. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. It's kind of, it should be able to hit those levels. It doesn't mean that that's how you should set your subs, right? Whatever sounds right in your room is not going to be based on that. It's going to be based on what an ideal speaker would sound like in your room. You know, it's going to depend on whether you're right up against the wall is going to determine what the natural bass rise will be. And it could be higher than 10. It could be lower than 10, you know? So I think the things need to be used properly, right? The reference is there just to let you know that your speakers need to be capable of hitting these levels, but it doesn't mean that that's exactly where you should set your sub to sound correct. Does that make sense? What is Reverend Slim over here? He's saying lots of stuff. So he's saying part of what Magic Beans does is adjust things for small room acoustics, so you're getting that same sense of bass you would at reference in a theatrical space. He also says the reason you want sub trims, not LFE level, at minus 5 dB is because most AVRs only have 2-volt output, and you want to avoid clipping, especially if you're using a house curve like Magic Beans. And I've confirmed this. If I play the Dolby Amaze demo, when the bass hits, I was finding that my sub was distorting even at low volume, like at a volume that I know it could easily play, right? I'm like, what? And what was happening is it was distorting on a, you know, inside of the AVR, right? Digitally, it was clipping. And so the output was clipping as well. So it wasn't the sub that was having an issue. It was just too much with EQ and everything going on. And I found like minus 5, minus 6 dB on the Denon would make it so I would always have a clean signal no matter how hot of a signal we'd throw into it. You know, that might be a new test tone we'll put on the updated version. Just run something like at max. Just run it at max, you know, and see where it clips. You know, make sure your stuff is not clipping. What else is he saying here? TSO says, I was saying in the email that the AVR says 10 dB lower test tone to the LFE. So with the AVR test tone, the level should with already if I make the 10 sub will match the speaker levels. Yeah, again, none of this. Those are kind of arbitrary numbers at this point. All that matters is that sound is accurate in your room, right? Reverend Slim, don't overthink it. Adding additional subs adds more headroom, but don't make any trim changes based on that. Use an SPL meter REW and set each of the same level. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question a little bit. I see that you really care and that you're really focused on this, but believe me when I tell you, using those arbitrary numbers is not the way to do it. Okay, I can tell you confidently, it's not. Has nothing to do with setting your sub levels. Maybe if you want to do that as just the baseline before you do anything, and then adjust it later. Yeah, you can do that, but being minus 10, okay, I'm gonna now they're even. Forget that. It has nothing to do with anything. And you're still on it. Making 10. Make it 10 dB hotter using the same is the same. No. You asked us the question, right? I gave you an honest answer based on what we know. I'm not trying to trick you. We're not arguing. I'm telling you that is trying to use that as a reference to figure out how hot you should make your subs is not the correct way. All right. So anyway, what else? What else we got?
Joe, got a question for you. Just released my website for service in audio calibration. I wonder if I could show the Magic Beans logo on my site. I have the pro version. Oh.
You know what? I appreciate you, first of all, using Magic Beans. I would say I think it would be a good idea for me to do some kind of training program because you look like a good dude. I think we've talked before.
Yeah, isn't he in the Discord?
Yeah, I think so. But I guess what I should do is I should probably have some sort of certification program so I can say, this dude, he knows, and then I'll put it on our website. Like, hey, you need somebody in your area? Joe the French Canadian. That's the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd probably be good to kind of have something like that where I can be sure that people are using it correctly, right? Because I would hate for somebody to say, yeah, I had somebody do magic beans on my system. It sucks. Like, oh man,
Right.
it says magic beans on his website, so must be authorized. So
Right.
yeah, it'd probably be better if we did it so that we had something official, and I said, hey, you know what? I can vouch for this guy. He knows what he's doing. That would probably be the better way to go.
Look, hey,
know if
Joe
you're
the
interested
French
in that.
Canadian could be the very first.
You could be the first, right?
Yep.
You could be the first.
First
Go
author.
around
Wow, dude, how cool is I'm the first authorized Magic Beans calibrator.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'd have to make up the whole.
You'd have to make up, have Angela make some sort of like certificate thing, like Magic Beans with a little gold stamp or star on it. Boom, certified, some shit like that.
He says, "Let's go, let's go." All right, yeah, I got to make up a curriculum, add in some crazy questions in there. Yeah. What else?
Awesome.
Appreciate that,
we've
Joe.
got Ali Amir. What do you think in Dolby Atmos music? Because when I hear the songs, I feel annoying. Do you agree? If I cannot recommend some music that's good in Atmos, thanks. Slim,
It feels like it's annoying. You know what? I get it. I get why he. Do you ever feel annoyed when you listen to something in Atmos and you're like, what is this? What
I actually
this?
One of my, you know what, that brings up, thank you, I need to write this down. One of my patrons sent me something, review video for Atmos album. An Atmos album, he said, was god awful trash. Can you do a video about it? And I'm like, I'm not even gonna listen to it. I'm gonna do a live like reaction to it to see like how bad this thing is, because they're selling the disc for like $35, right? Because it's a Blu-ray disc, right? And it's a pretty well-known band, so I would be pissed, especially if I had to pay for it. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, like, thank goodness. Oh, I actually can't even talk about it. But when I was okay, let's try to piece this together. When we were at the show, which of my Atmos mixes did the people like the most?
At the show?
Yeah.
On my knees? That thing?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
yeah.
I got to hear the brand new album, and my guy Nick Reeves did the Atmos mix of the brand new. I even took clips and like they were like, hey, you can't post any of that because it's not out yet.
Oh.
And so, dude, you guys got to hear that shit. That shit is fucking awesome. And here's the funny part, Joe. He's using my tricks.
Using your tricks?
I was like, oh shit. I'm looking at the render and I'm listening to the sounds. Huh? What's that? Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously not all the tricks,
of course.
They're not putting the vocal in the center, but that's gonna be I feel like that's gonna be a standout Atmos mix, is their new album. I don't know when it's out, right? I'm supposed to get a text message when I can post those clips. So yeah. I'll let you guys know. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Reverend Slim's on it for Atmos music. Billie Eilish albums and Phineas. Yep.
Ali, I know what you're talking about though, because I've listened to some of the Atmos mixes at the very beginning. I've tried it on speakers and then on headphones, and maybe not all of it is bad. I did it kind of early on to see what people were doing, and my initial impression was like, it reminds me of, when you go to a movie, like you've watched a movie in VR, or not VR, 3D, and you got to wear these glasses, and it's almost like, man, I'd rather just show me the regular one. Like, this is more annoying than it is like beneficial. Yeah, stuff was moved a little bit forward, and like, stuff was kind of doing stuff, but I never felt like, oh, this is adding to my experience, right? Versus when I listen to your mixes, Chana, I'm like, dude, this is like really, I felt like it was made for this. You know, not the other way around. Like, all right, we already mixed it. You got to do something. All right, do a little something. Okay. It wasn't like that. It really, when it goes, "Oh, no, 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 no," like, I'm like, yeah, that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's appropriate. You know?
Yes.
When they start
Yes.
putting people, they feel like they're kind of floating around you, like, we're hovering around you. You know what I mean? I don't like that.
Yeah. I like, I can't. I know when you play that, I don't know if you downloaded the file I sent in the chat, but as soon as you hear the mallets, you'll be like, oh, this is that thing from like a couple years ago that I like was like, oh, I gotta try this. So now it's pretty much done. And remember you were like, hey, why don't we make a track that just tests everything, right? Just kind of like what is it called? Fast car. Just have a track like Fast Car.
That would be
Right?
so slick. That would be so slick if there was a background thing and there was like pink noise in the background.
I mean,
And you'd be like, hey, can you guys play this real quick? And then you just bust out a mic at these shows and start like moving mic. Like, all right, I got the measurement. I got the measurement.
How do I get Magic Beans on my iPhone? That's because I'm going to go, dude. We got 10 days.
They're not going to let you play pink noise. I'm not going to let you play pink noise.
No,
those places aren't going to.
I'll just have them play Fast Car. This is what Fast Car sounds like in this room at Expona and make a video about it. And I'll just screen record the what is it called? The whatever from Magic Beans. You know?
Yeah.
Easy. I don't know what kind of content to make at the show. I'm like, fuck it. Let's like these RBHs sounded pretty good at the show. As soon as I measure them, I'm like, man, why is there a big suck out at like 2K?
I thought your tweeter was broken, actually.
No,
is it not?
Did
you go up to it and listen to it?
Yeah. And the same with the other side. The other side was not as pronounced, but it's still a problem with it. I'm like, half of me is like, well, maybe this is made for audio files that are just old and they just can't hear, who needs to hear all that extra 2K that's just going to be annoying anyway, because that tone is fucking annoying.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. I guess I'll leave that up to you. We've talked about it in our after show, like looking at other people's measurements.
We joked about it. Let's do it. It's 2025, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do something different.
No, just I saw other measurements that are like online, and I'm like, oh, it looks good here. And then I looked at it, I'm like, what kind of scale is this? So anyway, what else? What are the other comments here? I have a few other things I want to talk about. We're already over an hour. Let's see here. SQ Car Audio. Nice. He says, how's the research into active Magic Beans going? I can't say that we're like actively doing a lot, but it wouldn't be a ton of extra work, let's just say, to make it appropriate for car audio. Because the only difference is for car audio, you're only like tuning a mid bass, right? It's not even full range. So when Magic Beans is looking at that, it's gonna be like, why doesn't this thing have any trouble? I don't get it. And so we just need to make it so that it looks at a mid range and understands, okay, this is only gonna play this frequency range, so only correct this range. So we can make some adjustments. I would love to do it. Yeah. It's on my wish list for sure. It's close to the top of my wish list. What else? So Dwayne asks, using an ELAC debut 2.0 sub, thinking about switching to an SVS sub. I have 2 Super Lintons right now. Would switching out the sub give me a noticeable improvement in a small, medium-sized room? So I have to remember ELAC debut 2.0 sub. I've reviewed various ELAC subs, unless it's their reference stuff that we've tried out. Their older debut stuff really was like good down to 30-ish hertz, right?
You know what Andrew Jones says about he's always like he kind of said that customers always ask to get a matching sub. He's like, a sub is a sub, just get the one sub. He's like, I don't want to design a brand new sub when we have a perfectly good sub. Sure, it doesn't match all the way 100%, but it doesn't matter. He was kind of going on about it at like Explode a couple years ago. or wherever I saw him. Maybe
Well,
CES.
It wasn't until recently with their later subs, after Andrew Jones, I think, left even, that they started making subs that could really do sub 20 hertz, right?
Yeah.
Or at least 20 hertz.
Dude, those
They
dual
still have
fans are
some.
ridiculous.
Yeah, they still have some that are more affordable. Just look for something that goes down to 20 hertz. That's always my recommendation.
What is
Whether
this
you
R500,
use it or
right?
not. Huh?
The
Save up
R500
for
is
that.
what I have here.
The R500s are
$12.99.
pretty awesome. Yeah, they're not
RS500.
super cheap.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think they
So,
were
yeah,
they were on sale some time ago.
I think every SVS sub, except for the 3000 micro, pretty much every SVS sub will get down to 20 hertz. Even the 3000 micro, I think it's rated down to like 24 hertz. You know, small dual 8s, but they really EQ it so that it gets down to 20 hertz. And will you notice a difference? I think so. I would definitely recommend that. It's just there's something about that 20 hertz rumble when you can hear frequencies down that low with authority. It really adds something to the experience, especially when it's flat. You know, if it's a nice smooth bass response, not just like, oh, let's boost 20 hertz. No, not that. Smooth down to 20 hertz. Let's see here. What else? Revibe, what are you saying here? Revibe Creative says, do you know of any great live show recordings that are mixed in Atmos aside from Hans Zimmer? Seems like Atmos would be killer format for live shows with crowd noise.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's all about the recording of that live show. If you have like a 9 microphone array, yeah, that's going to be great, because then they can put you in the center of those 9 microphones, you know what I'm saying? And actually get like that Oro 3D array. If they just put those microphones right where they do the sound and then just record, you would get like the perfect, I was in the middle of that room, festival space, whatever. You know, that would be really cool. But it's just about the recording. Right.
I think that could be, I feel like that could be something that's just channel based. I don't think that live stuff is actually the best place to do Atmos.
Yeah. Dude, the best is the fucking video game, man. You
video
play Call
game,
of
I think
Duty?
digital stuff where you can make stuff, play stuff where it actually is. Yeah, I don't think it really works out well for crowd noise. What are you gonna be able to tell versus, let's say, an old Pro Logic setup, right? Okay, crowd noise, it's happening behind you, right? Stuff that's happening in front of you is happening in front of you. Okay. Like, do you care whether this lady is like placed behind here or this lady who's screaming is like right here? You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. Right. I think binaural is probably the best.
Mix and crowd noise. Like if you were to the new Wolfpack album, out of crowd mix in Atmos. Oh, if it's good, hey, I can imagine it sounds pretty good. You know, I was at the L Acoustics demo when they were doing a live spatial mix of a concert, a Nora Jones concert, using their Lisa technology. That was pretty cool. That was definitely cool. They were mimicking the stage and the sound coming from wherever the people were on stage. Like the keyboard player was on the right in the back a little bit. So they kind of placed them there, right? The background vocals were on the left, but back a little bit. Nora was up front playing on a guitar. So she's like front and center. And then they had a little bit of crowd noise from, you know, yeah, it can sound good. But I think when you want to sound something, you want something to sound awesome, they're going to have to capture it in a different way if it's a live show, right? If you're just doing like, if they're recording the 2-channel, you know, they got a 2-channel or they have multiple channels in, and they're just kind of Atmosing it and then just adding crowd noise from the show, I can see how they can kind of just chop that up and put it together and make it sound pretty cool. But it's not going to be like, unless they have the microphones in the middle of the, like where they do the sound. That would, to me, that would be like the best way to mix those two things to get a live show kind of experience.
Reverend Slim says you want the acoustics of the space, not the crowd noise. You know, I think realistically, if you want to feel like you're there, the best way to do it would be if somebody was in the crowd, right, with binaural mics on their head, staying still, maybe a dummy head, so they don't, have to stay still. But that would probably be the best possible sound that you could get. Unfortunately, binaural is not made for speakers, right? So you're saying what's the best sound you can get out of speakers? I'd say the second best would be what is the one with all the mics facing all different directions? I mean, even something like that Oro 3D mic array setup, like that they did at the tractor for the tractor demo. That sounds awesome on speakers.
Yep.
Because what happens is when something's over here to the left or to the back of you, there's actually some weird phase stuff that happens, right? Like you'll hear the sound over here, but then it'll maybe be out of phase over here in some frequencies. It'll be lower in level. Like things will happen on this side of the room. The problem with Atmos right now is that if you just put something over here, it doesn't automatically do some weird phasey stuff over here. But if you were to capture it with the actual mics, the mics will capture that weird stuff that's happening. So it'll sound more accurate, I guess, if you had a mic array there. What else? You know what? I actually want to talk about one thing real quick. Is absolute phase. You know about absolute phase?
No.
Like in a system, like do you think that you would hear a difference? Let's say all
Absolutely.
your speakers are. Yeah. Let's say if you flip the polarity on every single one of your speakers, right?
Uh-huh.
So that means that they're still in phase with each other. The relative phase between all your speakers is the same. But if you flip the polarity on every single speaker, including your subs, would you hear a difference? What do you guys say in the chat? In the comments, would you be able to hear the difference, the absolute phase, if you flip the polarity, every single one of your speakers, right? So when a bass, something hits the transient, instead of the immediate impulse being the speaker pushing out, it goes in. Tyler Stout's usually on point, and he says I'm going with no. Okay. Anybody else? What do you guys say? Can you hear absolute phase? Because I was I'll tell you once you guys start answering, because I don't want you agreeing with me on purpose. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I think this was kind of a debate maybe a while ago with like 2-channel guys. SQ Car Audio says no. You say no also? SQ Car Audio? Oh my goodness. Really? So okay. Dwayne Arnold says no. Your mama says yeah. Okay. So SQ Car Audio, this is perfect for you because you do car audio stuff, right? I was able to just flip quickly. I was able to flip the polarity just quickly on the JL Audio amp DSP combo that I have. Right? So it's very easy. Just go down. Whoa. Something went out for a second. Sorry about that. You guys hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. You said yes. I don't know what happened. I think we had like a little power outage or something. Get back to this camera. You can hear me though? I cannot hear you. Okay. Let me see here. Anyway. Okay. Anyway, let me get. Oh my goodness, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. You know what? I'm just gonna keep talking. Can you hear me? You can hear me? You can hear me or no? Let me see if I can get back to this. All right. Yes or no? You can hear me. That was weird. I don't know what happened. Joe, yes. Chana, no. Okay, I'm just gonna.
Oh, I was just muted. Derp. It says Joe Intel devices not connected. What's going on? What's going on? Hey, pretzel Pete's honey mustard and onion. This is pretty good, man.
I guess I'll just
100 calorie.
use the camera.
There you go.
Something is going on with this thing.
I was muted. My dumbass muted myself to eat, and then people like I can't hear Chana.
All right. So anyway, basically, what I found out is I flipped the polarity on everything, and it just started. When I listen to songs, I could easily pick it out because I have this thing that switches back and forth. What the heck was that?
Nothing. I just got a text message.
Be stable or what?
Who, me? I'm fantastic. Yeah.
What? Where was I? I was talking about testing polarity. No? Am I stuck?
You're fine. I'm just laughing.
Okay. So yeah, I was testing polarity, and I could easily tell the difference like 10 out of 10 times. It's super easy. Right? Like anytime the bass would hit in the car, I don't know if it's the same in a home, but like the transients, when bass would hit, and instead of like pushing the sound out, like the sound goes, I don't know, gets sucked in. It sounds weird, right? So I always thought that it didn't matter. That's what I always thought. It doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference. But I don't know. In my testing, I could easily switch back and forth, and I could easily tell the difference every single time. Yeah, with pink noise, with music, it didn't matter what I was playing. I could easily pick it out. And I actually tried it over here in my studio setup. Same deal, right? Just flipping the polarity on everything. And kind of, you guys try it. Like, just try it. It's kind of obvious. Yeah. So why does that matter? No, it doesn't. What
happened?
Like all the stuff is clicking on and off in here.
Oh, we can't hear any of that.
Anyway, pink noise, bold claim. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing for me to gain or lose if there's such thing, being able to hear it or not. But I just thought it was interesting. I just thought it was interesting that I could tell difference because I thought that it wasn't possible. But yeah, this thing is cool. If you have a way to switch between two presets real quickly, like with this JL, it's super fast. Like it's not like it doesn't lag between switching. But just doing that on and off, it's super easy to tell. Anyway, I think we should get going. Maybe that's a hint.
We're too long.
Yeah, we're talking too much. Should I invest in the Dirac full suite? Says Tom.
If it's that $600 one, man, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
I would say yes. I would say yes if you're not going to be a crazy person like us who's going to do everything manually and spend 2 days You know, somebody's asked me this before, like, should I just get Dirac Live or should I try to do this myself? I'm like, do you want to learn? If you want to learn and you want to understand how everything works, then yeah, get multi-QX and get dual FFT measurement system and learn about all this stuff.
Like,
if you just
so
want it done and
I'm
never want to hear about it again, then just use Dirac Live bass control and be done.
I am going to pay for the stupid Dirac Live license for the Marantz AV10 because I'm using Dirac Live in the music studio application. So then when I test it, I'm going to go directly to the Dirac Live in the Marantz. I'm obviously going to use Magic Beans because on the Marantz because of the, what is it, the HDAM? Their whatever they do to like kind of take down, roll off the high end. Because I want to make sure I hear exactly what I'm doing on one end and what the consumer will hear on the other end. So for me, I'm not going to get bass control because yes, I have two subs, but they're the same distance away from me. They're just right next to each other, pretty much 6 inches apart, 8 inches apart. So 250 it is, or something like that. I think.
And you really get the most out of that bass control if you're trying to optimize for multiple seats. Because
I don't have that. That's not me.
If you're sitting in one spot, just make it all sound good in your one spot and be done.
Yeah. I mean, it's, what is it? Limited bandwidth is 259. Dirac Live room correction, full bandwidth is 349. Right? And then bass control, you'd have to get bass control and that. So that's $590. That's $600, man. So if you didn't want to go that high, go with you could do limited bandwidth for $259. And then if you wanted to like really get into full bandwidth, it's only $100 and you can do the upgrade. Right? So you can kind of stepping stone it up there. I don't know what AVR are they using. Do you know?
Then I don't know if he said. Tell us what AVR you're using. In the meantime, Reverend Slim says in a car, the reversal of phase would present itself differently because of the smaller space and the wavelengths that affects. And I think that that's absolutely true, right? Like you're so close to everything that when everything either pushes in or pops out, it's a different space, right? So the same things don't apply in all cases, right? I'm not saying, oh, if I were to do this in my home theater, that I'd be able to tell the difference. I just said in this particular case, I was able to hear the difference when I used to think that it was an absolute rule that you could not hear the difference. I can actually hear the difference here in the studio also, though. But this is also a small space. But it's not always, I know what you're saying, that it would be the bass that's the most obvious. It's also something that happens with the vocals. Like they sound like more like pulled back or something.
More
like
present
versus like forward versus being put. It's weird, man. I wish I could tell you guys like the exact reason why that happens. But it just sounds that way. Trust your ears.
I'm eating pretzel Pete, honey mustard and onion, mini twist, 100-calorie pack. True Pro. That's what I'm eating. Is it the phase alignment that makes the vocal sound so good?
Is it the phase alignment that makes vocals sound good? No, usually phase, when you talk about phase, it's more like do the speakers blend well with the sub, right? Does it sound like it's one cohesive whole? With vocals and stuff like that, with multiple speakers, it's more about like the timing. Is the timing right on so that when stuff will image perfectly in the center between them?
Sure. Okay.
It's more about that.
More about that. So there you
go.
go.
When you phase align the higher frequencies. So here's the thing though, right? Dirac, the way it does is that it makes all the phase kind of flat, right? So then if you want to align the phase, it's easy. Just they're all flat. But a normal speaker is not flat, right? It could be like all kinds of weird, right? But if you're using the same speaker, both of those speakers will both have that type of phase response, right? So that's why imaging can still work even if they're not all flat. It gets tricky though when you're using a home theater and your front speakers are different from your surround speakers and your height speakers are different. Now they might not have the same phase response, and that's where Dirac can come in and say, oh, you know what, we're gonna make them all flat, phase align them. So yeah, vocals. I don't know that it's. I think vocals has more
More
to
of a
do
timing
with.
thing.
Well, imaging of vocals has more to do with timing and levels, and
Yep.
but I think it's more about the tonality. Do you have the right tonality? Is there a hole in the response? You know, if the tonal balance is correct, then you'll have good vocals.
Mm.
You can just use one speaker and get good vocals. Yeah. What
There it is.
else? Do I have any other notes here? Oh, we can do anything for March. You already mentioned that, right? How about an April sale? April 1st sale. Magic Beans and True Target 15% increase. Yes?
That's right. 15% increase on April 1st.
Yeah, if you guys want to
Tuesday.
buy it on April 1st, you know, just pay extra. It's pretty cool. If you want to support, this is
Pretty cool.
it's pretty cool. And then before we go, let's talk about why Anthem Arc Genesis is inferior to Denon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
just kidding. There's a guy on our old video.
I know why.
Dude, just on every single comment, was just blasting, oh, this guy doesn't know. Dude, I said it straight from the beginning. I haven't tested Anthem. Somebody asked me the question, what I would prefer, and I prefer to use a product that I can enter my own target curves into, so I can use my product, Magic Beans, because I trust what my product does, right? So yeah, I'm totally biased in that sense, right? But believe me, when somebody says, "Hey, you know, Anthem's so much better than Odyssey by default," if you run them both,
Yes.
I believe you. I believe you because by default, Odyssey is not great, right? Like that's not a high bar, right? But somebody didn't ask me that. They didn't ask me what would you prefer, automatic calibration with Denon or automatic calibration with Arc Genesis. They said Anthem Arc Genesis, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I would prefer the manual. I would prefer the Denon because of the manual calibration. Okay. So anyway, this guy keeps going in. Oh, boom, boom, boom. You've never tried any of these things. Why can you talk? I don't have to try it, right? I've read the manual. I see what it can do, what it allows you to do. I understand how they work. They all kind of work based on the same principles. Where'd Chana go? I need Chana in here because I have never tried it. There he is. What is happening? What is?
I don't know. Go ahead. You understand how they work? I was like, oh, what the hell?
I understand how they work, right? You know, I understand how it does timing. I understand what it can do with phase based on the type of filters that it uses. I understand the frequency response, what it tries to do, which is it seems like they're trying to preserve the natural sound of the speaker. Okay, that's a different approach, right? I don't think it's the absolute correct one, but that's fair. That's what Lingdorf does. They're not doing some of the same stuff with FIR as Dirac. So I can speak on that. I know what it does technically. And I also know that it doesn't allow you to import your target curves. And I also know that there's a guy in our group who's very experienced. He has an Anthem 8. I don't know which one he has, but he had to buy like mini DSP HTXs, right? Like 2 of them so that he could use the Anthem because he likes the sound of the Anthem. But he's also using Magic Beans on top of it because the mini DSPs have, you know, you can use Magic Beans on those.
Yeah.
So it goes through the Anthem, through the mini DSPs, and then out to his power amp. Why would somebody do that, right? They just like spending money? No, I don't think so. It's because they saw the benefit, they like it, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So what's your experience with Arc Genesis? Just so people don't, this guy, so he doesn't know I'm a hater. He's like, oh, I want to make a video exposing you.
I've used Arc Genesis like 4 times.
Okay, so you have experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about Arc Genesis.
I mean, straight up, if you're doing Dirac, if you're doing Odyssey versus Arc Genesis, hands down. Oh, those two, hands down. When I went to Magic Beans, I was like, oh, this is even better than that, right? Because at the end of the day, when like I was gonna go to this in this video that I'm doing, like Magic Beans is just some. I was just joking, right? Magic Beans, True Target, the app is actually Joe's 6-hour calibration method of finding out a target curve custom for your room. The app allows you to do it in 30 minutes, right? So like what it's trying to do is leaps and bounds better than anything that comes stock in any AVR, because it's trying to get a custom curve for the space using the information that like what the speakers are capable of, the distance to your MLP, and your room's acoustics. There's nothing on the market that does that. And that's why it's so good. That's why it beats out everything, because if you're going to use an arbitrary target curve like the Harman target curve, what the fuck for? Do you have the JBL M2 speaker? No, you don't. And there's no way, like, you know, our Genesis is good, but Magic Bean's better because it's getting something that's custom tailored to the room. That's it.
Well,
There's nothing else out there that'll do that.
We're taking extra measurements that they're just not taking. We take near field measurements. They don't take those, right? So
neither is Dirac.
So here's the thing: Dirac versus Arc Genesis.
I'd have to get our Arc Genesis in this room, because I've only really been doing Dirac in this room and in the apartment. That Arc Genesis I did in my old house, so I didn't have access to Dirac.
Which one?
Say again?
Are they? Would you say comparable? Because when you said Odyssey versus Arc Genesis, it was just like Arc Genesis.
Oh, I mean, if we're talking Odyssey versus Dirac, 100% Dirac is much better.
Okay, so Dirac versus Arc Genesis, then
I'd have to get Arc Genesis back in here to, like, because I can't remember the tiny details to compare two things that I never compared. Right? I can compare Dirac and Odyssey. I can compare Odyssey versus Arc Genesis, but I can't just cross pollinate those comparisons because it's been too long.
So would you say that it's close, right? It's getting you can't for sure say, oh, this one for sure.
I can't for sure say which is better, Dirac versus Arc Genesis. I can't.
Okay. People in the chat are saying Dirac for sure. Are you guys speaking from experience or just based on, how they work? I mean, it's fair. I think it's a fair thing to assess something based on its inner workings, right? Like with this guy, I said, I don't have to test drive every single car to understand. Like, I can look at the specs and know which one's faster based on the specs, the power to weight ratio. I can look at these things and tell you what it can and cannot do, right? I'm not going to be surprised looking at a car that's 120 horsepower going up against a 1,000 horsepower vehicle and say, I think I know which one's faster. I look at the weight of one, I see all this stuff. You can look at all the specs and figure out what's going to happen. So anyway, Dirac has patents around phase. Yeah, they do some called like mixed phase. It's just combination of FIR and IIR. Smart way to use their resources, and I think the proper way to do it. Anyway, let's get going. I was kind of just teasing, you know what I mean? Because this guy, he has a channel. He said he's gonna make a video. I said, please do. I would love to hear your take. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty confident that if you're gonna argue with me about which one I would like, I'm pretty sure I know what I like. Right? I want to use the app that I made.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
I want to use the app that you make. Fuck that.
That's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
We should get going. Thank you guys for all the people who joined here.
That's right. We appreciate you guys showing up and hanging out. Of course, we appreciate everyone in the crew. You want to be part of the crew and jump into the after show, ask more questions, talk a lot of shit, and do all the fun stuff that we always do as guys, go to crew.dailyhifi.com. And if you want to support the channel, pick up some merch, go to shop.dailyhifi.com. And of course, if you don't want to watch me eat or see Joe and me go in and out of existence on live,
what the heck was that?
listen to the show on your favorite podcasting platform, or just go to anchor.fm/dailyhifi. Do we have anything else? Oh yeah. Make sure to keep up with our sales, the Spatial Group Instagram account, along with the Magic Beans Instagram account. I'll probably, if there's any kind of promotion, I will be reposting on mine, at the Real Techno Dad, and of course Mr. Joe and Tells.
Yep.
Yeah. On behalf of myself, Mr. Joe, and Aaron, who isn't here tonight, hope you guys have a great one, and we'll see you next week, which will be, I think that will be.
Is that?
Oh no. Well, there's 2 more before Expona. I leave on the 10th. We got the 2nd and the 9th. Okay, so it won't be the pre-Expona, but whatevs. Have a great one, everybody.
All right, see you guys later.